Yeah. Well, listen, I told you guys it was not going to be an undefeated season. We knew it was going to happen. So, yes, it was nice for that 3-0 run, but welcome back to reality. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to go all the way to shit from this point forward. It just means we're no longer undefeated. Frankly, I think we might even make it out of this series okay. We'll have to wait and see. As long as the ball Brendan Donovan can keep the consistency that we talked about. Yeah, we want to celebrate old boy because old boy definitely is good. But man, let's not sit here and act like you wasn't sitting there screaming at the TV or the screen, whatever you was watching. When you saw him throw the ball to home plate, when there was a clear double right in front of him. All he had to do was throw the second, throw the first, game over. Well, not game over, 4 innings. Then we would at least give, well, maybe we could have been game over because we could have scored the next time in the middle. But you get what he was doing, right? Like, you get what he was doing. You get it. But you're just like, man. You just wish it had gone down a little different. But anyway, before I get into that did happen. And there's much to discuss with the game, with everybody's stats, with everything that went down. Even though there was a loss, there were some positive signs, of course. So we're not going to overlook those. But I have to get into this breaking news that I literally just saw right before I came on here. And it's got me kind of, whoa. It's got me kind of like, whoa, like what? You know what I'm saying? But yes, if you were not already made aware, Lance Lynn, everybody, the one and only Lance Lynn, has announced his retirement. Retirement? Lance Lynn retirement? What in the world is that? Like, I thought that the ball was just going to get signed somewhere else. You know, he was just in his free agency. He had just celebrated him hitting, I think him making the milestone of 2,000 strikeouts in his career or something of that sort. For him to not get anybody, nobody, not zero, not now, not a now, not a nada for Lance Lynn. I don't know what's going on here, y'all. Somebody help me understand. Did he have a terrible year last year? No, he was a starter. He had a just fine year. Is he older? Yes, that's what happens in life. You get older and you end up being older. Does it make you worse? I don't think so. I mean, not automatically. Well, gradually, maybe not most optimal shape, but not necessarily completely. Look, Justin Verlander just signed a 1-year deal for $15 million. He is 42 years old. Max Scherzer is up in the Blue Jays. He just got a multi-million-dollar deal. Now, am I saying Lance Lynn is Scherzer or Verlander? No. But is he worth a deal? A deal? Now, what comes to mind for me is the whole, well, I don't want to take any low deal.
There it is, number 2,000. Lance Lynn strikes out Jared Triolo.
I don't want to do the whole, because I get it. There's some folks who are like, man, I got to think about the precedent that I set. If I'm not mistaken, man, I can't remember who it was, but there's another ball player out there who's like, yo, I want to take Austin Riley. Excuse me, not Austin Riley. Rizzo, Anthony Rizzo. Rizzo was like, look, I got to consider what precedent I set. I got to think about who comes after me. If I set the bar, me taking some extremely low amount, even though it would be very financially beneficial for me, is it going to be me basically lowballing anybody that comes after me? Am I going to have to worry about me being the one that said, look, I'm not paying you so-and-so because, look, if I can go out and get a Lance Lynn for $800,000 just over the minimal, then that's what I'm going to do. And you don't want to be the guy who started that trend, right? So I get that, but dang, man, I just feel like a part of me now. Let's also take into consideration that this was announced on his wife's podcast. All right, let's just go ahead and go into the weeds of this a little bit. This is what was said. So, longtime St. Louis Cardinal right-hander Lance Lynn announced Tuesday that he's retired from Major League Baseball after 13 seasons. Baseball's season is upon us, and I'm right here on the couch, and that is where I'm going to stay. Lance Lynn said on his wife's podcast, Diamond in the Rough. That's a trend nowadays. A lot of the baseball players' wives are getting podcasts, and I'm not going to sit there and talk that. You better go ahead and capitalize on it, girl. I ain't mad at you. I'm officially retiring from baseball right here, right now. And this, to me, frankly does not feel like a real retirement. It feels like a dude who's exhausted and upset with that the offseason has gone down. This is not somebody who started the season in St. Louis saying, yo, I'm probably going to make this my last season. This is somebody who's like, I still don't have a job. You know what I'm saying? This is somebody who's no longer wants to be on the market. He's done. He's like, look, I've done the baseball thing. I've done the hat on the helmet, the hat on the head thing. I don't want to do it no more because I don't want to have to worry about whether or not I have a job at the end of every single time I do a fairly decent job on a good team or not. I just don't want to go through it no more. That's, I feel like, what is happening here. This feels less like an instance in which somebody is not necessarily wanting to play, and this feels more like an instance in which somebody who wants to play isn't being given the opportunity to do so, and as a result, he's opting out. Because, I mean, yo, I sit there and I watch, and I want to shout out some of my news sources real quick. I want to shout out the Foul Territory podcast. I want to shout out Katie Wu and St. Louis, Cardinal Territory. I want to shout out like Ken Rosenthal, all them cats. I mean, I do the MLB thing as well, but what they do on Foul Territory that I haven't seen on any other spot is that they go deep into the weeds of what it is that happens when you do go into free agency. Like how much it hurts, how much it sucks, how much you'd have to deal with not knowing whether your kids are going to be in the same school, whether your wife's going to have to uproot from her family, whether or not you all have to have rent out of somewhere you're going to buy. Did you just buy your house? Oh, man, are you going to have to sell that house? Like all of the stuff that we sit here like, oh, they just got traded. They're like, yo, well, I got to take my kids out of their school that they love and plant them somewhere where they don't know anybody and hope that they're going to be okay. These are the things that go into. These are the things that they go into when it comes to the free agency stuff. And it sounds like hell. And for him to have his 2-year deal with the White Sox, 2-year deal, I think, with the White Sox 2 years before, I think for $38 million. I think I want to say it was like $38 million, something like that. $40 million. I have to double check. And then he gets to deal with the St. Louis Cardinals, which, man, we liked them last year. It was definitely a good addition to the starters. You know, when we had obviously we got Sonny, you got Michaelis, you got your boy Palante. They even threw McGreevy in there a couple times. I mean, these are the starters. You know, it was a good mix, but man, you just kind of get the sense that he went into free agency thinking he was going to get an offer. He was even on there. I think he actually did an interview on that podcast, and they was talking about how he was like, yo, he was looking forward to getting back on the mound. He was trying. He had some new things he was going to put out there. And then all of a sudden we look and hear that he's announcing his retirement. I just feel like this is more of a cry. Well, we saw another one of our team members last year, Brandon, who came from the San Francisco Giants, who was a substitute, who was a bench player, soon player for Mason Wynn. He did the same thing, Brandon Crawford, but he retired after the season. Like it was almost like, all right, I get it. I'm not going through that again. This is a guy who waited to see what was going to happen in the offseason, as he should, by the way. Sounds like I'm knocking him, but I'm not. I swear I'm not knocking. But this is a guy who waited to see what was going to happen. And once it feels like he realized that nothing was happening, he said, all right, I want to remove my name from the list of considerations because I don't want to have to deal with worrying about whether or not I'm going to get drafted or not, or picked up by a team or not. So yeah, I honestly feel like that is ultimately really what's going on here. There's nothing wrong with that at all, but I do unfortunately think that this is the result of him not getting the offseason offers that he deserves. Lance Lynn, man, you used to love him, man. Come on, the dude that puts the glove on the helmet, he goes out there and does stuff, comes back up. Yo, it's hard to watch this happening to this dude because you almost want to say, if you retire, are you mean to tell me that if I offer you a $15 million 1-year contract next year to go to, I don't know, let's say the Baltimore Orioles that could use somebody? We see Gibby when they got the rest of the St. Louis Cardinals pitching squad. They got Gibson. You know what I'm saying? They went in. I think they got, who was they got? Oh, they got Gibson. They got somebody else from the Cardinals too over there. Well, you mean to tell me that if the Cleveland Guardians was like, yeah, we're gonna give you $12 million for the rest of the year, which has already started, you mean to tell me you're not interested? I find that hard to believe. Now, again, this dude has made millions, as have most baseball players in the industry. So I'm not expecting him to necessarily be, in a state that's going to make him, feel like he's completely inept, out of options, has no idea what to do at this point. I don't see that happen. But I do wish that this had gone down differently. And if I'm being honest, when I'm looking at the St. Louis starters, I'm looking at them like, yo, because I think even he said, I think he was keeping the door open. If I'm not mistaken, he did an interview with these guys, these ex-ball players and whatnot, Kratz and Brzezinski and this dude Scott, who was a reporter, I believe. And he's like, yo, you're not going back. He said, you're not going back to the Cardinals. He's like, don't say that. He's like, I'm not saying that. You don't know if that's going to happen or not. And that to me says, well, that he's hoping to get picked back up by the Cardinals. And it almost says to me that if the Cardinals were to make him a decent offer, he'd be like, all right, I'm cool with it. Let's do it. But they didn't do any such thing. Now, I said decent offer, not any offer. Now, if they're insulting that man, if they're saying, yo, look, this is it, take it or leave it, then yeah, he's not going to sit there and take the bare minimum or just under what his value is. He knows his worth, and he didn't take anything underneath his worth. But at the same time, if he's looking to work and there's work on the table and he's just not wanting to take it because it's not up to par with his standards, then that's his right. And also, who knows what he's done with all the money that he's made since he's been in the bigs. He could have a cookie company or some sort of, or a barbecue restaurant, or his wife's podcast might be making more money than he was making in the bigs. His wife might be more successful than him. He might not need to do nothing. So everybody's life is not based on their public persona. So some folks need to calm down when it comes to this, even though I know it's really premature for me to say this because this literally just broke like very recently. I ain't gonna lie. For me, I maybe I'm telling myself this because I just feel like it's a little premature for him to be retiring at the moment. But anyway, that's his prerogative. He will do what he has to do, and I wish him the best of luck, as well as good luck to his family and all of the good stuff. All right, so listen, let's go ahead and get back into the game real quick because I got to keep this under a certain amount of time. As you know, they did not win recently. There was a lead that we had for quite a bit of time. Whoops. And while we had that lead, we were starting to feel ourselves a little bit like, your boy Newt went up there and did his thing. Of course, he was on fuego. The boy is definitely pulling up, trying to be that MTV MVP candidate that I believe he is actually on track to if the Cardinals do anything, which evidently most people do not, most folks are not believing that. But he's been these first 4 games, he's delivered. And the plate discipline, I cannot say enough about the plate discipline. Like the guy really, really, really watches every single thing, and he does not swing at darn near nothing. He did strike out once. My goodness, he's consistent. He's making fun out there when he was sitting there when Luke and Baker had to run off after he's there. Him and Pedro Paez was sitting there. Like that is the Cardinals right now. He has to be the Cardinals. So him, along with Brendan Donovan, have been very offensively. They've contributed very heavily in the offensive range. But unfortunately, tragedy did hit yesterday when Brendan Donovan made what I believe was a defensive bluster. In this last play, one of the last plays, he throws the ball to home, as opposed to look at second base and first base. There's the batters running to first, and then somebody running to second, and they're not even close. Like if he turns and he throws to second, bam, caught out, goes to first, double play, no runs come across, if I'm not mistaken. But look at what happens. Unfortunately, we get this. All right, and you notice that's with 1 out. Are you seeing this? There's 1 out. Okay, so if Brendan Donovan throws to second and throws to first, that's 2 outs. There's no runs. If he throws them out, and then we go into the 10th inning tie. And then when Pedro Paez, whoever it is, they knock something, we get a run. We get somebody leading off on second. Remember, this is extra inning, so we have a leadoff runner on second. There's somebody already starting the inning in scoring position. All you have to do is get 2 knocks. All right. Victor Scott made it was Paez who was our leadoff. So it was like, all right, he's not really that fast. But Victor Scott had a sack hit that went over here to right field. Excuse me. And as that happens, he sacrificed himself. That's why there's only 1 out when you see this happen. But then as Pedro Paez I'm sorry, I'm saying this all back. That's why it's on that. This was happens. But when Victor Scott ends up knocking them in, they only down by 1 now instead of being up by 1 because of that play. So I'm not sitting here. I'm not one of these people who believes one person loses the game. Like if you are the one who's at the foul line at the last in the last 3 seconds of the game and you miss your 2 foul shots, I don't believe that you lost the game. Like I believe it was a collective effort and you should have had a greater lead. It's not all your fault. I understand that, but it's really hard in this particular instance to not conclude the fact that had Brendan thrown the ball correctly 2 seconds within the time span that they had to do so, that there wouldn't have been a better outcome for this. All right, it's hard to believe that there would not have been a different outcome for that particular play. And that would have led to, I believe, a continuation of this undefeated streak that they had been on. And so I really hope that the clubhouse doesn't start to get a little discouraged. I hope that they don't start like feeling like, oh man, you know what I'm saying? We were undefeated, but now we're not, and all this other stuff. I really hope that they maintain, because if you think about it, it came down to that play. And then obviously, yeah, there was some runs before that. It really came down to that play. If that play went any different, we would have a completely different outcome from today. And yes, I know it came down to some other stuff as well, and we'll get into that. But for the time being, I just want to make sure I emphasize that was one of the key plays of the game that ultimately, I believe, led to the demise of the Cardinals' undefeated record. Now, having said that, it doesn't necessarily mean that there weren't other things that could have gone better. The pitching was not the best from Roycroft. Roycroft has always been, I say always, Roycroft is, I want to say, unfortunately, as much as I like old boy, as much as he has that Felix Bautista physique and all of that, I mean, you know, I call him the white Bautista, you know what I'm saying? Vanilla Bautista. Now I happen to believe that, you know, Roycroft, in terms of relief pitchers, may not necessarily, you know, be the strongest of the litter. However, he definitely is not, you know, trash. The boy is good, but I just feel like oftentimes when I see Roycroft is coming to end from the bullpen, I kind of get that all right, good luck. Let's hope this goes well type thing. And, you know, good luck with the boy. You know what I'm saying? I hope that, you know, that I'm in the minority when it comes to these type of feelings. But that is the way I unfortunately feel. And so in this particular instance, it did prove to be right. And Roycroft, who inherited, I believe, a game in which there was only 1 run, ended up leaving the game with 3 runs. And that sucks. I don't like that. You know, I hate it when that happens. But of course, who's going to like that, right? We don't always like that. That's just the way it works. And we have to accept it. But at the same time, it's not my favorite. So let's just kind of look into the pitching and see what it is exactly that I'm talking about, so you can be on page with me. So you notice right here, Mike Mikolas, right? Mike Mikolas. All right. 5 innings for the starter. 5 1/3 innings. Okay. Only had 2 hits on him. Yeah, he had 2 runs. All right. That hurts. All right. So then he left. He had 3 strikeouts, ERA of 3. Now, well, it looks like it wasn't Roycroft. I'm sitting there talking all this trash, and it was Fernandez that had the bad inning. That's right. My bad. That's why facts are important, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we always chase. Yo, the dude Matan was nuts though. Did you see those last 2 innings? Those last 2 innings was nuts. Well, you know, before JoJo came in and walked 2 dudes and allowed 2 runs, and which ultimately allowed it to cause us to lose. So yeah, no save there. But man, I gotta say, man, Matan, the new guy on the staff, dude was on fuego. Roycroft, I'll take it back. My apologies, bro. You actually did your thing yesterday. I don't know why I felt like, I don't know, maybe it's just one of them stipulations. Man, my bad. I didn't mean to put you. I'm sorry, bro. I don't mean to be talking about you like that. You did your thing. I guess JoJo's had his moments. JoJo don't always got the mojo. So sorry, man. Well, listen, all I can say is I hope y'all do better this year. Let me just go ahead and briefly run down everything that happened. Let me show y'all the stats. Did I already do? Okay, not in there. Oh, yeah. So as you know, like I said, one of our boys has been struggling the most since he's been on this team. And the dude who I frankly think is unfortunately getting bad looks right now, I even saw it in some of the comments, and I started to feel kind of discouraged because I was like, man, I know he's so much better than this. Is, as I said before, your boy Mason Wynn. You know, he was the people's champ up until not too long ago. He was the guy who could do no wrong. He was the kid who everybody wanted to be like. He was the one that kids wanted to be like. And I know this for a fact because I witnessed it.
So what's going on, guys? Y'all had a good time at the game today?
Yeah.
Who's your favorite player on the Cardinals? Mason Lynn.
What?
Because he's like that.
Well, how does he look when he goes up to bat? Like, do you know how to do his batting stance?
It's a real thing. Like, he has the kids in his palm. But I think Victor Scott is starting to become that. I almost think that if I was to go back and ask these very same kids who it is that's their favorite player right now, they might still say Victor Scott. I mean, they might still say Mason Wynn, but there's a small chance they might be like, well, I'm kind of feeling Victor Scott right now, because Victor Scott is taking all of that energy that Mason Wynn had last year and pumping it into his own career. You got to give the boy his credit because he out there doing his thing. So, Mason, I hope that things get a little better for you, bro. But right now, things still look extremely bleak for you. Man, he really has not put up any numbers this year. He is like 0 for everything. 0 for everything. Yesterday, he was 0 for 5. The day before that, he's 0 for. He's doing Rafi Devers impression, evidently. And so you can't help but hope that he gets a little better, because you know that Mason is way better than his numbers are showing right now. So, man, here's to a better rest of the season for Mason. You know, you almost think it's gonna be like one of them things that just at some point in time it clicks. Like, you just look up and he hits something. He's like, oh, I get it. He makes that one adjustment. What I hope is it's not no bullshit. Like, he ain't having some issue with his girlfriend or his fiance and they arguing and beefing and she talking about moving out, and all of this is translating into his baseball game. I really hope that it ain't nothing like that. So, Mason, tighten up, bro. Let's get that rock straight and get the rock on the field straight, because I really want to see more of this.
So what's going on, guys? Y'all had a good time at the game today?
Yeah.
Who's your favorite player on the Cardinals?
Mason Lynn.
What?
Because he's like that. He's like that.
Well, how does he look when he goes up to bat? Like, do you know how to do his batting stance?
Hopefully we get more of that and less plays where we throw the ball towards home when you should be throwing it to second base or maybe third base. What? I know what he was thinking. He was trying to think, okay, you were thinking, look, let me just prevent them from scoring. But by getting a double play when there's one out, guess what you do, Brendan? You prevent them from scoring. So let's hope that the rest of this series goes a little better. I have a good feeling about it. Mike Trout didn't show up yesterday. Let's hope he stays away productively, and that should be that. Now, just in case you was wondering, there are the other subjects that are of note right now in the baseball world, specifically speaking about Jurickson Profar and his being suspended for PEDs, which is crazy because he's not the one person that you would suspect of having PEDs or something like that. You know what I'm saying? You almost think somebody like, I don't know, Judge or I don't know, Otani or one of them cats is going to have the PED thing. But nah, he ended up being some dude who's having issues with PEDs. So, hey, listen, now here's the funny part. He doesn't really admit to it. He basically says, nah, I didn't have no PEDs. What PEDs? That's your PEDs. I ain't got no PEDs. He said, I would never willingly take the banned substance, as if somebody forced this down his throat or as if maybe somebody snuck it into his grits. I don't know what exactly he's saying right now. Like, oh yeah, it wasn't me. I didn't do it on purpose. It was in my oat milk. Like, what are you saying, dude? Like, yes, you had some of this stuff in your system, and maybe the Braves aren't as lenient as the Padres and the Rangers. So you just got to be a little more careful, or maybe don't do substances. And just like my dog said on our other podcast, Stand Up Sports Bar, yo, listen, you get a list of what drugs are permissible and which ones are not. So when you get it and you violate it, that ain't on nothing but you and your staff. So yeah, if your staff lets you down, homeboy, then your staff lets you down. But that ain't nothing but your staff, nobody else's. So you should be mad with them. So I hate that this happened, because I want this dude to be good. I want him to be out there with the Braves slugging, taking pace of Ronald Acuna. But hey, it is what it is. Sometimes things don't work out the way you want them to. And one of the other stories that's kind of taken a whole world of its own is this whole idea of New York and these big ass bats that they using. Well, they're not big. I guess they're all constructed with the manner that you can, whatever, man. It's really a bunch of bullshit. I don't like the fact that they have these bats as a uniform thing. Like, almost everybody is able to access it, but that's not the case with every team. Now, we talked about this as well, and everybody disagreed with me. And there was a good point. Bo P said, well, you got to think about it like this. At one point in time, somebody started using iPads in the dugout. That wasn't everybody doing that. And then people adopted. This is something that is going to be probably adopted throughout the league. So just get used to seeing more of it, because just because the Yankees started the trend does not necessarily mean that they're going to be the ones that exclusively as a team end up with these type of tools at their disposal. So that did give me a little bit to pause. I was like, all right, I guess you're making a little bit of sense. I ain't gonna knock that part. That does make some sense. But I don't know. I guess something feels icky about it. You know what I'm saying? It's like pine tar. You know, remember last year when Edwin's okay, well, anyway. I'm gonna get to the Edwin Soto thing when he got suspended for a week for having some sticky substance in his glove. That's a whole other thing. But I again just have this weird icky feeling about it. I'm not feeling it. I know that the Yankees aren't the only ones using it, but they thus far have 15 home runs in 3 games, and it's just, to me, it's like, ugh. And all they're doing is moving the big side of the bat, the barrel, as they call it, to the part of the base of the part of the part of the bat that you use the most. And I get that. It's not illegal, but I don't know. Maybe there should be some sort of, I don't know. Maybe let me not be, I don't want to be a regulation guy. Let me not be that dude. All right. But anyway, man, we do have the Cardinals and Angels game coming up again. So we have that to look forward to. That's something that we will be watching this evening. It is an evening game. It is a primetime game as well. So hopefully we get a better outcome from this upcoming game than we had yesterday. These folks are still in the running to have a fairly decent record for the time being. So if we can just keep that same energy, bro, then we should be just fine. So I hope y'all will meet me again as we do have more to discuss tomorrow. Hopefully we will have a better outcome of a game. Tonight we've got Liverpool starting on our pitching staff, and we got Hendricks that's going to be starting for the Angels. I don't know how it's going to go, but I can only hope for the best. Newbar is our leadoff. Burley is going to be our second one at command instead of Contreras today. It looks like Contreras is going to be coming in off of the platoon. So let's just hope that things get a little bit better than they were yesterday, even though yesterday was a fairly decent time. And let's hope we can convince Lance Lynn that he don't have to leave just yet. All right. Cardinals, maybe we make the call. Maybe let's see if we can make him a pitching coach. I don't know. Maybe it's too soon for that. I know he's been out there for a while. But, man, let's see if we can. All right. Well, appreciate y'all, man, giving your boy a chance to speak a little bit. I will be back tomorrow, hopefully with even more to discuss. Until then, adios. Like, subscribe, comment, plus, and share. That's how we get around.